African American athletes, especially here in resident on the celebration of Labor Day.
Hello, Philadelphia. Hello, hello, hello. Whoa. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello, Philadelphia, and thank you, Brittany, for that introduction. And by the way, where I come from, I learned women can do anything a man can do. Because all the women in my family are smarter than I am. It's good to be almost home. You know, I wouldn't have been elected to the United States Senate in the first place were it not for Philadelphia. That's not a joke. All the help and support I got from Philly. Before I begin, we got a lot of friends to thank. Ryan Boyer, President of Building Trades. Ryan, thank you, pal. I don't know where Ryan's standing. I know he's here. And Danny Bowder, Danny, President of the Central Labor Council. God say hello. And Gary Messino, President of Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19. Thanks for hosting us today. Nothing to it. By the way, I think maybe the worst sentence in English language for somebody who runs a place is, the president's coming. Like, oh my God, nothing but work. Nothing but a lot of work. And by the way, you know, she couldn't be here today because she's celebrating Labor Day in Detroit. But I want to thank Liz Schuler, a great friend. The fearless leader of the AFL-CIO and a great, great partner. And so many current and former elected officials here today, all friends of mine, friends of labor as well. Governor Shapiro and Senator Fetterman, they couldn't be here today because we're splitting the state. They're taking Pittsburgh and I'm taking Philly. Along with a few friends. By the way, Mayor Kenny is here, I think. Mr. Mayor, you show up here? You able to come? There he is, under the American flag. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry I keep bugging you all the time. He and I talk more than I think we talk to our staffs. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh. I tell you what. Someone said, you know, that Biden, he's getting old, man. I tell you what. Well, guess what? Guess what? You know, the only thing that comes with age is a little bit of wisdom. I've been doing this longer than anybody, and guess what? I'm going to continue to do it with your help. Look, and one of my friends from my hometown, Bobby Casey from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And, you know, and we've represented Dwight Evans, a good friend, and Brendan Boyle's always there for me, and Mary Kay Scanlon. Mary Kay Scanlon has been a great friend as well. And look, former member, Charlene Parker. Where's Charlene? She's here? I know I saw her. I know the next mayor. I was about to do that. I was going to see her first. You want to come up here and do this, old buddy? Yeah, I'm happy. I told when I ran for president, I told you I'd have your back. And I have. You know, there are a lot of politicians in this country who don't know how to say the word union. They talk about labor. They don't say union. It's union. I'm one of them. I'm proud to say union. I'm proud to be the most pro-union president according to the experts about in American history. And by the way, I make no bones about that. Folks, in this Labor Day, let me tell you what we're celebrating. We're celebrating jobs, good-paying jobs, jobs you can raise a family on, union jobs. You've heard me say it before, but my dad used to have an expression, I swear to God. He'd say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck, for real. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, it's going to be okay, and mean it when you say it. And he was right. And I'm determined to make that a reality for every family in this country. And we are making it a reality. nearly 13,500,000 jobs just since you got me sworn in January of 2020. 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But you wouldn't know from all the negative news you hear, but we're getting through this one of the greatest job creation periods in American history. For real, that's a fact. And you know, it wasn't that long ago we were losing jobs in this country. In fact, the guy who held this job before me was just one of 2 presidents in history. He was one of, but here's an important point, one of 2 presidents in history that left office with fewer jobs in America than when he got elected office. By the way, you know who the other one was? Herbert Hoover. Isn't that kind of coincidental? Look, but we're turning things around because of you. When the last guy was here, you were shipping jobs to China. Now we're bringing jobs home from China. When the last guy was here, your pensions were at risk. We helped save millions of pensions with your help. When the last guy was here, he looked at the world from Park Avenue. I look at it from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I look at it from Claymont, Delaware. Not a joke. Folks, all my time in public office, I've been referred to as middle-class Joe. I guess they thought that was somehow not very complimentary. Well, guess what? That's who I am. And it doesn't mean you're not sophisticated because you're middle class. It means you work like hell, and you know what your family has to work like hell to be able to make it. Well, I'm awful sophisticated about one thing. I know who built this country. I've been saying this since I ran the first time. Let me say it loud and clear. Wall Street didn't build America. The middle class built America, and unions built the middle class. That's a fact. That's not hyperbole, that's a fact. Unions built the middle class. When I look at this crowd, I see folks in my neighborhood. I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. The people of physical courage and brains. People who busted their necks their whole lives to care for their families. People who got up every day and worked like the devil to pay their taxes and volunteer in their communities. You're too modest. You don't talk enough about what you have to do. But I tell you, leaders all the time, American union workers, are the best, and this is what I know every major head of state in the world, not a joke, just because I've been around, and they look to America for foreign policy issues. And guess what? I make the point. America has the best workers in the world. That's a fact. And you guys ought to talk about it more. It can take 4 to 5 years to train as an apprentice. It's like going back to college. The jobs are constantly changing. The technology evolves. You have to keep stepping up. You have to get more training. You can't, so you can't be the worst in the world. You're the best in the world. No, I really mean it. You know, like the sheet metal workers who used to use hand-drawn blueprints to design ductwork in buildings. Now use sophisticated computer-aided design systems so the entire project can be laid out in 3D. It ain't your father's sheet metal workers. This is a different world, man. You do the job right and you do it on time, and it costs less for the guy you're doing it for, the person, the outfit you're doing it for, than if they didn't have labor. People are starting to understand. I met with the business roundtable. They're the big shots in corporate America. And they said, why? I'm serious. You're not doing much about it. You're fighting everything we're doing in the unions as well as in the Democratic Party to make people better educated. Why are you doing it? Well, guess what? All of a sudden now you don't see them going after you nearly as much. Why? Because they know they need you. America's support for union is higher today than any time in nearly 60 years. And I'm continuing to call on Congress to fully and finally pass the Protect the Right to Organize, the PRO Act, which makes it easier to. Too many companies are still playing unfair trying to prevent organization. No, the bill's named after one of the greatest leaders in labor I've ever worked with, Rich Trumka. And guess what? We're going to get it passed, come hell or high water. And folks, my plan for the country is to make the economy work for people like you, because when it works for people like you, it works for everybody. Like I said, in my first 2 years, I've created nearly 13.5 million jobs, more jobs in 2 years than any president has created in a 4-year term. More. 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. Where is it written? Where is it written that America will not lead the world in manufacturing? I don't see it written anywhere, because we are leading the world. Unemployment has been below 4% for the longest stretch in 50 years. We've recovered all the jobs lost during the pandemic. We've added millions more. People are coming off the sidelines to go to work. More than 700,000 people joined the labor force last month, which means a higher share of American working-age Americans are now in the workforce than any time in the last 20 years. Job satisfaction is higher than it's been in 36 years. While unemployment is down, inflation is down as well. Remember, the experts said to get inflation down, we need to spend the mantra of economists for a long time. You need to get inflation under control. You need to lower wages, and you need higher unemployment. Not on my watch. That's right. The answer was to lay people off and pay them less. But I never thought the problem was too many people working or working people making too much money. I've never seen that problem. We have to do more to put inflation down, but it's down around 3%, about 1/3 of what it was a year ago. That's near the lowest point in 2 years, and wages are growing faster than inflation. Folks, this just didn't happen. Together we made it happen. Decades of handing out excessive tax cuts to the rich and the corporations without making the investments in America and the American people. That had been a bust. Was all done to hollow out the middle class, blow up the deficit, ship jobs overseas, strip the dignity and pride and hope out of a community one after another as they shut down the factory and send it overseas because labor was cheaper and we imported a more expensive product. Well, guess what? I'm pretty sure you saw in your home what I saw in mine. Not a whole lot of trickle down ended up at my dad's kitchen table as he busted his neck. So we're changing that. Replacing trickle-down economics with what everyone on Wall Street is referring these days to Bidenomics. And guess what? It's working. It's about building the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Because this is not a political statement, this is an economic statement. When the middle class does well, everyone does well. I'm a capitalist. The poor do well, and guess what? You can still be a millionaire or a billionaire, except one thing. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Bidenomics is a blue-collar blueprint for America. It's for you. For example, last week we announced a new proposal, a new rule that would extend overtime pay to as many as 3,600,000 workers. Now it's about 35 grand, 36 grand before you can, after that you don't get overtime. Well, now it's 53 grand, man. And guess what? He's got a whole lot of people working as executive assistants, working a hell of a lot more than 40 hours and not getting paid overtime. Now you're going to get paid overtime. It'll make a big difference for a lot of families. We did something else that matters a whole lot to folks in this parking lot. That we passed the Bush-Lewis Act, which protected pensions for millions of union workers. This is one of the most significant achievements for union workers and retirees in over 50 years. And for the folks at home who don't know why it matters, let me explain. 2 to 3 million union workers, through no fault of their own, after paying into their pension for years, faced painful cuts in benefits they were counting on in retirement. Why? They're going to be left high and dry, while companies they work for didn't hold up their end of the bargain and finance their end of the bargain. We just couldn't let that happen. And I might add, we got to pass, and not a single solitary Republican vote, not one, voted to sustain these pensions. People worked their whole lives. No, think about it, though. Why in the hell would they do that? Can you imagine if it was reversed? Can you imagine they came along and said they were, anyway, I want to get going. Democrats passed it. because Democrats know the value of hard work. We also passed the bipartisan infrastructure law. You can't have the strongest economy in the world with a second-rate infrastructure. Can you believe we used to have the best infrastructure in the world, and then we fell to number 13 in the world, roads, bridges, internet, the whole deal. 13, the United States of America, 13th in the world. But guess what? Guess what? The great real estate builder, the last guy here, he didn't build a damn thing. Under my predecessor, Infrastructure Week became a punchline. On my watch, infrastructure has been a decade and it's a headline. And folks, we're investing in America, in our roads, bridges, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, and so much more. Over $10 billion has already been committed to the state of Pennsylvania. We've already announced $78 million going to the city of Philadelphia to make improvements along the approximately 12.3 miles of Roosevelt Boulevard and North Broad Street. The Bucks County line, including upgrades or traffic signals, installing new transit and bike paths, pedestrian paths. We're upgrading airports from Pittsburgh to Lehigh Valley right here in Philly. And you got it. 95 is we got it. I got it, man. I got it. And Bobby Casey, we're finally going to get that rail line from Scranton to New York. I'm going to get that done. My grandfather, you think I'm joking. I'm not joking. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and economically it'll be a big deal. Economically be a big deal. And guess who's going to build these projects? You are. Labor. Union labor. Sheet metal workers, electricians, operating engineers, iron workers, steel workers, laborers, bricklayers, plumbers, pipe fitters, cement masons, painters. Look, we're creating good paying, prevailing wage jobs where you don't need a college degree to make a decent income, but you got to work as hard to get a college degree. And by the way, we're going to transition to an electric vehicle future made in America. It will be made in America. And that protects and expands good union jobs. Auto manufacturing has largely been a middle-class career with good pay that you could raise a family on. Well, that's not going to change on my watch. Look, one of the core principles throughout everything we've done is this. Make it in America, with American products, with American labor. Most people don't know there's been a federal law on the books, and 20 years ago I didn't know it either, to be honest with you. Since 1933, the law says that when Congress appropriates money for the president to administer, whether it's for an aircraft carrier or a federal highway, the president is supposed to hire American workers and use only American products. But guess what? For too long, too many presidents didn't have the nerve to insist on it. Well, I'm insisting on it. When I took office, I was determined that we'd never again be in a position where during the pandemic, supply chains broke down, American companies couldn't get the parts and products they needed. So I was determined to bring the supply chains home, to invest in America. And guess what? And that's encouraging the private sector to do the same. Since I took office, the private companies are investing their money, $510 billion investing in America, creating jobs, instead of sending it overseas. For example, I met with the chairman of one of the largest semiconductor manufacturers in the world. And by the way, we invented the semiconductor. We used to have 40% of the market. Well, it's based in South Korea, this group. It's called SK Group. They're investing $22 billion in America, building facilities to make these chips here in America. When I asked the CEO why America, here's what he said. Number one, there's no safer place in the world to have my investment than the United States of America. And number two, this is the God's truth, you have the best workers in the world. He was right on both counts. The long and short of it is we're making things here in America again, with American workers, with American products, and American factories. For too long, we've been exporting jobs. Corporations were shutting down factories throughout the country, from Pennsylvania all through the Midwest, for communities, generations having worked in a particular factory, get shipped overseas because labor was cheaper, depriving that county and that city of pride, sending jobs overseas and importing finished products from overseas. But we're not doing that anymore. We're creating good-paying union jobs and exporting union-made products to the rest of the world. And maybe equally important, we're bringing back pride, those scores of cities across America. I believe Americans are willing to work hard, should be able to get a job no matter where they live, in the heartland, small towns, big cities, raise their kids in a good paycheck and keep the roots where they grew up. And even with what we've done, unlike the last president, in my first 2 years, all this stuff, guess what? I cut the deficit, $1.7 trillion. Cut the debt, $1.7 trillion. And one more thing. One of the ways I was able to invest in you and still bring down the deficit was I started making people pay their fair share. 55 of the, you may remember hearing me say this for the longest time, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, paid zero in federal taxes, making $40 billion. They paid zero. Well, guess what? It's not fair if I changed it. Now they're paying a minimum of 15% paying for all this stuff. By the way, how many of you think the tax code is fair? You got it, man. You know, the idea that there are over 1,000 billionaires, not million, billionaires in America. You know what they pay in federal taxes on average? 8%. How many of you want to, if I had a deal, said, okay, no matter what you do, you only have to pay 8%, raise your hand. You'd take it in a heartbeat, right? Well, they pay a lower rate than you, than teachers, firefighters, and probably anyone in this parking lot. It's time we get paid, they paid at least a minimum tax. The bottom line is this, you pay enough. It's time for big corporations, the very wealthy, to start paying their fair share. And I made a promise when I got elected, so there'd be no mistakes, that no one making under $400,000, any of you making for over 400 grand here? No one making under $400,000 see the federal taxes go up a single penny, so I couldn't be used the malarkey that they say I'm raising taxes on middle-class people. I made my promise, and I'll keep it. Let me close with this. We faced some pretty tough times in recent years. The pandemic took more than a million of our friends and neighbors, sons and daughters. There's a lot of empty chairs at Christmas, a lot of empty chairs when you sit down for Thanksgiving. Mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife. It generated the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. It wasn't that long ago that 20 million people were out of work. But you didn't give up. Philadelphia didn't give up. America didn't give up. As I said 1,000 times, there is no quit in America. None. All I hear from my friends on the other side is what they say is wrong with America. They keep telling us America's failing. They're wrong. I've got news for them. America has the strongest economy in the world right now, today. Lowest inflation rate among any major economy. 13.5 million new jobs, and there's no one reason for it. It's not because of me, although our products have helped. Not just the Democratic Party, it's you. I mean it sincerely, not a joke. It's the American people, your grit, determination, you never quit. Whatever we set our mind to as a country, think about this. Any goal we've ever set, we've never failed to accomplish. That's not going to change now. America isn't failing, America's winning, and the rest of the world knows it. That's why our friends and allies are looking to us. Look, I'm proud of the historic legislation my administration passed, a lot of which wouldn't have happened without so much that affects you without you. We passed the PACT Act, one of the most significant laws ever signed for veterans exposed to toxic metals and their families. You know, I have a saying I've used my whole career. We have only one truly sacred obligation, to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't come home as well. It was part of my agenda in the State of the Union. How many of you here are veterans? Raise your hand. A lot of veterans here. Well, that obligation is sacred to prepare and equip you all and to deal with you when you come home. Folks, we've taken the right steps not only to get our economy moving again, but to build to the future. And the real hero in this story is you. I'm not being solicitous. The American people, the people of Philadelphia, the working people of this country. You're the ones getting up every day, walking out that door and doing your work. And I've long said, it's never, ever, ever been a good bet to bet against America. And it's not a good bet today. We're still a country that believes in honesty and decency and integrity. We're still a country that believes in hard work and giving everyone a fair shot. Because we're still a country that believes that every one of us is created equal. We're still the beacon of the free world, not a joke. And it's because small towns and rural America, suburbs, big cities, all across the country, everyday ordinary people do the most extraordinary things. And let me tell you, America's best days are ahead of us. They're ahead of us, not behind us. It's about the future. This is about the future. And Lee, I can honestly say, I've been doing this a long while, but I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just have to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we work together. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. You're the best. You're the best. You really are the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Been the remarks of President Joe Biden. He touted his Bidenomics plan. His economic plan. Actually, I think it was a part of his presidential campaign. Actually, in a report by the president, yeah, I think that was on August 1, he touted the 180,000 jobs added last month, and also actually the president also highlighted his some uh, acts laws he have passed, and that has been a Capital News and Politics special report. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ethan Vargas from Manila. Have a great morning and happy Labor Day.